Hey, for Arrow, Season 5, Episode 7, Vigilante, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode, especially after the twist last week. I was definitely looking forward to seeing really where we were headed with that, but also the fact that I really do love this season so far, and this episode, I will admit, was one of the weaker ones. I did enjoy this episode overall, but this was a bit of a filler episode. There wasn't as much going on. There was definitely some huge stuff towards the end of this episode, and you could make the argument that a lot of these episodes are filler, but when you have 23 episodes, some episodes are just not needed isn't the word, because this episode I think was needed, definitely, but some episodes are just not as big as others, and this is definitely one of those episodes, though the ending was pretty big. But let's just get into this episode, because I definitely do want to talk about it. There's not a ton that happened in this episode, but there definitely is stuff to talk about, and let's just jump right into it. So we start off with this really cool scene of this unknown vigilante gunning down an entire gang of criminals as they try to sell off a girl, assumably into the slave market, and the vigilante leaves two of the gang members' bodies hanging outside the police car in the shape of a V, walks with V's drawn in their checks with their cheeks with their own blood. And I will admit, the vigilante in this episode was fucking scary. I mean, they did a good job at deviating away from Prometheus and focusing on this vigilante, and I actually did care about this vigilante. Like, I don't want you guys to think I didn't like this episode. What I mean by one of the weaker ones, that it wasn't one of the plot-heavy ones that really got the story moving, because it did, but this was definitely more of, Vigilante of the Week than it was, Criminal of the Week than it was a, serial show. And, meanwhile, we see Team Arrow is training in the new Arrow Cave when Felicity walks in with photos of the new Vigilante's handiwork, and Oliver wants to bring this Vigilante in as they have enough serial killers running around Star City, but Felicity and Wild Dog aren't convinced that stopping the new guy is a good idea. They feel that this is a distraction from Prometheus, and I agree. This clearly is something that, Prometheus is out there. If they catch this guy, then they're distracting themselves, and already they're deviating from the mission. And I get why Oliver obviously wants to go after them, but at the same time, it's just not really the best idea. But in a flashback, by far the best stuff in this episode is the flashbacks. So the flashbacks were on point in this episode. They were quite incredible, and I thought they really did a great job with them. Always brought in before Kovar, who Dolph Lundgren, however you pronounce his name, he is absolutely killing it in this role. No surprise here, but he's just so creepy and so compelling, and I can't wait to see where he's going to go. He confessed he's interested in how Queen went from carefree American playboy to a member of the Bratva. He doesn't understand how he can make that transition, and Tayana's mother walks in, and Kovar reveals that she's actually his employee, we find out. And I thought that was very interesting to see, but I like the way that he's getting into his head. I like the way he's challenging him, because, yeah, it is a big question. How did Oliver go from this playboy to a vigilante? It is a pretty rapid transition. I think it very well echoes what's going on now with Oliver very well. So Oliver then meets with Susan, asks her to sit on the new Vigilante story. Oliver admits that he doesn't know if he's actually doing any good in the city, so Susan insists that she buy him a drink. And clearly for her, this is her way of getting into his head and trying to figure out, what's really going on. Because again, remember, she's trying to find out all of the bad intel from him about the Bratva. So anything bad he says, she can use against him. And I very much think that's going to happen very soon. I definitely think that Susan is going to somehow find a way to get Oliver in some bad trouble. I don't know how, but I definitely think she's going to find a way to do that. But we'll have to see. Lance then walks into Thea's office, hands her a letter of resignation after admitting that he's still drinking, and I like that he wants to get his life together, because, yeah, he really does have this drink problem, and obviously Thea's very upset. She thought that he was done, but she sees that he's not, and obviously she's kind of upset about it. I thought they did some really good stuff with them this episode. Felicity then sends Team Arrow minus Oliver into action to stop a bank robbery, but by the time they've arrived, the new vigilante is already scared off the bank robbers, save for one who's lying on the ground. One of the robbers tells Diggle that the vigilante's name is actually Vigilante, which, that was ridiculous. I don't know why they called this Vigilante. I mean, is there really, you couldn't come up with anything better? Vigilante, are you kidding me? I just found that to be really dumb, honestly, that their name was Vigilante, but either way, it's not, I don't make the rules, I just think it's a dumb name, but either way, whatever. Back at the Arrow Cave, Oliver tells the team that they need to find the rest of the bank robbers who go by the Spooky Gang, as well as Vigilante, and Evelyn and Rory are questioning whether they need to fight Vigilante, but Oliver says that they can't be mad that he used to kill people without a trial and let this new guy go free, because he used to do that, and now he's not just gonna let him go free. That's not happening, definitely, but In a flashback, Kovar tries to convince Oliver that the Broadva are corrupt and basically tries to tell him, look, you can't be with the Broadva, they're not a good direction for you to go in, and Oliver actually stabs Kovar in the hand and then tells Kovar to let him out, and I get what Kovar is trying to do. Again, he's really trying to get into Oliver's head, and again, I think this is further evidence that Kovar could be Prometheus. I could very well see them doing that by the end of this season, that he is Prometheus, and it doesn't seem obvious, I wouldn't say, but it just seems like the right direction to go with the storyline is to make Kovar the main villain, because everyone says how great he is. Everyone is so happy to see Dolph Lundgren play, I can't think of his name, how you pronounce his name, but everyone's so happy to see him here. I think it would make sense if Kovar ended up being, the villain this season, definitely, but either way, we'll have to see. Thea arrives at Lance's apartment, says that she's worried about him, and Lance shows Thea the throwing star, says that he had repeated blackouts, and obviously he's starting to get very worried about what's going on. We left us off last week with us not knowing if Lance was Prometheus or not, and I like the way they keep that mystery going. I don't think that Lance Prometheus, like I said, I think he's somehow connected to Prometheus, but I don't think he is Prometheus, but we'll have to really see where this is going to go, because at this point I don't really know. So Curtis, Renee, and Diggle then track down Vigilante's ammo supplier. Diggle gets a bit violent with him as he misses his son's second birthday party, and Evelyn and Rory pull a guy off the street to get the spooky gang's location. Evelyn and Rory then find out that Dunn likes to target banks farther away from police stations, and Team Arrow finds the spooky gang just as Vigilante arrives, and after a brief shootout, Diggle goes after the spooky gang's leader while Oliver swings in to fight Vigilante. Vigilante says he's either with him or against him. Oliver's against him because, again, they already have enough Vigilantes here, and all he's really doing is causing problems, and he runs away, and obviously this isn't a good situation for Oliver, and I get why they say they want him to bring him in and maybe train him, but Oliver already has a team. He can't just train someone else. It's distracting. He needs to focus on getting Prometheus, and I get why Oliver really is not really liking Vigilante. Vigilante's an exact copycat of what he's doing, and Oliver's not like that one bit. You definitely see that. But back in the Arrow Cave, Oliver says that maybe Vigilante's right, that the system isn't working. After all, they're chasing a criminal that got out of prison 8 years early. So it might not be working, actually. There might be another way to do it that they're just not thinking of. And I think that was very interesting that we saw that. And in a flashback, Kovar distracts Oliver by saying the Broadva betrayed him before grabbing Oliver's guns, having his men grab him. Again, really intense stuff here, the way it was done. But Lance admits to Thea that he's actually not Prometheus, but that he resigned because he didn't want Prometheus to have a way to mess with Thea or Oliver, we find out. So he's actually resigned from being in the police. He's no longer a police. He's going to go on his own, and I don't know if they're writing Lance out of the show, but it very much seems like that to me. And I've said it before this season, I don't really know how Lance fits into the show. They've done a good job with putting him in so far, but other than this whole alcoholism storyline, until he gets his shit together, I don't really know how Lance fits into the rest of the show. So if they are writing him out of the show, I applaud them for it. I think it's a perfect way to get rid of one character. Like I said, the thing that's working so well this season is the simplicity, and by getting rid of Lance, it gives us just more simplistic stuff to deal with, and I really do like that. But Chase interrogates one of Dunn's lackeys, gets the name of the hotel he's holed up in, and after Chase finishes, Oliver tells Chase to get a warrant soon, because he doesn't think that Vigilante will wait for him, because no, he won't. And Greeno goes to Dunn first, but right before Vigilante shoots up Dunn's motel with a machine gun, when Greeno used a bulletproof mesh to stop the bullet, Vigilante blows up the room with an RPG, but Oliver saves him in time. Vigilante just always one step behind, and Oliver tells Team Arrow to find a way to track Vigilante before leaving to go and do Mayor's office stuff with Susan. We don't really know what that's all about, but Thea then drops Lance off at a rehab facility and says that he still needs to grieve over Laurel. Lance agrees, walks in the rehab facility. I was kind of surprised to see this happen, actually. I didn't expect them to go in this direction so quickly, but I like this. Like I said, I think it's a good way to not write Lance out of the show, but get him to get his shit together and maybe have him gone for a couple episodes. I'm perfectly fine with that. We don't necessarily need him in the show, so I get why he's going away for a while. I don't think he's going to be gone for the rest of the season. I think he's just going away for a little bit. We'll probably see him again before the season ends, but for right now, this is a good direction to go in. It gets rid of one plot of the season and gets us to focus more on the main stuff, which is what I'm most compelled to right now. So Oliver shows up for his date with Susan. After taking a drink, Oliver asks Susan in a roundabout way how to deal with Vigilante. Susan says that he's all that the city has, so keep doing things the right way. And again, we know that Susan probably is just trying to blackmail him and sabotage things, but they have a moment before Diggle arrives, suggests they rob a bank to draw Vigilante out, and sure enough, Vigilante shows up at the staged bank robbery. He takes Terrific hostage to force Oliver to bargain, and when Oliver refuses to back down, Vigilante says his methods aren't working. He says that he needs a push to adopt more extreme measures. Oliver shoots the guns out at Vigilante's hands right as he tries to shoot Terrific, and he then eventually gets him tied up. Oliver tries to unmask Vigilante, but triggers a booby trap, throwing Oliver back and allowing Vigilante to escape. So, unfortunately, they lost him. They did not get to Vigilante in this episode, but that was fine. I really was not the hugest fan of Vigilante. I found him to be a little bit cartoony. Just the fact that he was always one step ahead of them. I just didn't really get why we needed this character. It just seemed kind of unnecessary to me. I get what they were trying to do, but the fact that he escaped, I mean, it felt kind of weak. It really did. I get that Oliver, there's vigilantes out there, but it just didn't really seem like we need him in the first place. I just don't really know why he was here, but either way, I didn't really care about this, but whatever. Green Arrow then drops Dunn alive at the police station. The next morning, Theo shows Oliver the throwing star. They both realize that Prometheus knows that Oliver is a Green Arrow, which is something that Oliver has always suspected, and now he knows is true is definitely going to be a problem, so they also talk about, what happened with Lance, and that Lance needs to get his shit together. I like seeing that overall. But back in Russia, Oliver tries to challenge Kovar, but he gets his ass kicked, and the Brodva shows up just in time, revealing that they actually did cut a deal with Kovar, so that would also make sense why Prometheus has all these people. For all we know, he could be part of the Brodva still. We don't really know, but the fact that Kovar was getting him to turn against the Brodva and then having the Brodva work for him is overall very interesting. I don't really know exactly where we're going with this, but again, I think Dolph Lundgren's just doing such a great job in this show that I don't really care where we're headed. I think just Kovar in general is so compelling, and I can't wait to see where else we're going with him, because I really am loving where we're going with him so far. But either way, we then see Renee. He brings, we see he's with Diggle. He asks Diggle, why do you work out so much? And I like the dynamic between these two. But he probably does the most selfless thing he's done so far, which is bring Lila and John Jr. to Diggle's hideout. It was definitely weird to see Diggle's son, but again, I think we have to get used to it. This is going to be something we're dealing with for a while, so they can celebrate John Jr.'s birthday. Just a really nice scene overall. We don't get to see a lot of these nice scenes with Diggle and his family, and he's worried about the feds, and I like that, the U.S. Marshals, and, Lila assures him that they're gone and they don't have to worry about him. Just a really nice scene overall, seeing seeing Diggle genuinely happy for once is something we don't really get seen. I like seeing that here. But Susan then shows up at Oliver's office as he's leaving. She convinces Oliver to have a second drink with her, and definitely, you don't know if this is actually sincere or if she's just trying to get information out of him. I can't really tell. But then we get to the ending, which, damn, this ending is good. It seems like every episode they're ending Arrow on a great note, and this continues that. We end with Prometheus. He approaches Artemis on a rooftop, and instead of being scared, it actually turns out she's in cahoots with Prometheus, and she's actually infiltrated Team Arrow from the inside. We don't know how long she's been working with him, but she's working with Prometheus, and that is the way the episode ends. Really crazy stuff overall. Let's get into this episode, because I really don't have a ton to say about where we're headed next. So, while this was a good episode, this definitely was not my favorite episode of this season. You guys know I don't really like, not that I don't like, but I just feel that these episodes where there's, random Vigilante of the week, especially this season, we don't really need it. I don't know why this episode was really here. It just seemed like it was kind of here because we needed a break from Prometheus, because the show has 23 episodes and they can't do, Prometheus for 23 episodes. I don't really understand that, but I didn't really understand the point of the Vigilante. I don't really know what they were trying to do with him. I didn't really find it to be that compelling. I get what they were trying to do, but it just felt like a huge missed opportunity to just have him get away in the end and not really, and that just kind of ended, and it just, to me, just seemed very unnecessary. I don't really know why that was there. Other than that, though, I really did enjoy this episode. I like seeing Lance kind of being written out for once, like him kind of taking a back seat. I think where we're headed with him, getting the help he needs, that is exactly the direction we need to go with him, definitely with him getting the help he needs and deciding to get the help and deciding to, just have him away from the show for a little bit, I think is a good idea. Not that I don't like Lance. Again, I just don't really know what else he's going to do in the show as long as he's an alcoholic. I don't just want to see him complain about being an alcoholic, because no one wants to watch that. I like seeing Lance, help them out, and I'm hoping that Lance does get his shit together. But we'll have to see. I'm still confused on what exactly is going on with Prometheus. Did he try to take the star from Prometheus? I couldn't really tell. That felt very underwritten to me, but maybe there's just something I missed. I don't really know. Plus side, Felicity's boyfriend wasn't in this episode, so that was good. You guys know I'm not really a huge fan. I don't hate him. I just think he's whatever. I'm not really a fan of him overall. But Oliver and Kovar, I love where this is headed. Like I said, I think Kovar is still Prometheus. I think it makes very much perfect sense why he's Prometheus, but we'll have to see where that's going. Prometheus and Artemis, this twist with them in the end, I don't know how long she's been working with him, but it makes sense now. Artemis has not gotten anything to do, and now it makes sense. It's mainly because of the fact that I think, I think it's mainly because she's been working with Prometheus. She's been against Oliver this entire time, which I never would have suspected, but Evelyn clearly, most of her scenes have been her trying to get the team to turn against Oliver. This has probably been through Prometheus. We know that Prometheus is very persistent, and if that's why he took out Church, now it's starting to make sense. I'm starting to think that he's been working with Evelyn from the start, and she was just a more worthy ally, so that's why he took out Church, and if that's the case, that makes a lot of sense why Church had to die, because I still don't really understand why they had to get rid of Church. But if that's the reason why, then okay, that I understand. I get that she was just a more worthy, ally for him. I get that she was just, more reliable and someone that he could count on more than, say, Church, who wanted to do his own thing. He didn't want to do that. So I understand where that's going. Oliver and Susan is very interesting because there's a part of me that thinks that Susan genuinely does like Oliver, and then there's a part of me that remembers that she's trying to get, dirt on him, and she's trying to, turn against him and get the entire city to turn against him. So I don't really know if this is sincere or if she's just trying to get dirt on Oliver. We'll have to see where this is really going to go. But either ways, guys, we now have a week to wait for Arrow. That's not because the CW. It's mainly because of Thanksgiving being next week. They're not going to have anything on Wednesday, which means I'll get to review movies, which is great. But either ways, guys, so much you guys saw this episode. Loved your thoughts on it. I really did enjoy this episode overall. I just wasn't really a fan of Vigilante. I wasn't as into it as I've been with the other episodes. But the flashbacks, Lance's exit, and the twist at the end really did make up for it. I liked everything that went on. I just didn't really care about the Vigilante stuff. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next, which will be for the season finale of American Horror Story Roanoke, which I have no idea what's happening in this episode. I don't know, if there's going to be a huge twist, if it's just going to be an interview for an hour, I honestly don't know. But either way, definitely interested in seeing how that plays out, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.